Hello, listener. I'm so glad you pressed play today. You're in for a wonderful conversation with Linda Ugelow, a confidence and visibility coach who helps people overcome their fear of public speaking and step boldly into the spotlight. Linda brings a rich background as a dance movement therapist, performer, and transformational coach, and she's on a mission to help others tap into their full potential. I can't wait for you to hear her story and her wisdom, so let's get started. Welcome to Don't Be Caged by Your Age, Linda. Everybody, Linda's a neighbor, as we would say here in Boston. She lives right down the road. And Linda, let everybody know your age and where you live.
I live in Bedford, Massachusetts, and my age is 70.
Woohoo! I got the
Woo!
clappers out, everybody, celebrating. We're all about aging out loud and proud here on the podcast, folks. And Linda is so not caged by her age. And I know this personally and up front because I danced wildly with her on the dance floor at Podfest 2025 in
Yep.
January. Oh my gosh, you just had all the moves and the grooves. I was in awe and wonder of you.
One of my favorite things to do.
And she's also part of the New England Podcasters group. And it's so much fun because that means occasionally I get to hurl with Linda, hug in real life, which is always the best, to look someone in the eye in person and give them a big hug. So, Linda, what sparked your transition from dance movement therapy to focusing on helping individuals overcome their fear of public speaking? This is what I love about our lived experiences and how we can look back over the decades, right? Because it's sort of all the dots seem to connect and they make sense for where we are today. So please share your story.
Well, when I think of when I left the dance movement therapy world, and I wasn't working clinically, I was working with, everyday people. Usually there's dot, dot, dot. Mine was dot, 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 dot. So I had no idea what I wanted to do after that. I stopped because truthfully, I didn't know how to run it as a business. I didn't know how to make a cash flow positive. I didn't know how to build an audience. And this was back in the early 90s. I didn't ever hear the word business coach. Concept never crossed my mind. So I didn't know how to get help. So I just kind of gave it up, or I put it on the side burner for an indefinite time. And I was kind of in a career desert of sorts. But in the meantime, I was part of a women's world music group, and it was 40 years in total that I performed with them. And that was a lot of my life because we traveled across the country. We traveled around the world as well, to India, Morocco, Bulgaria, Greece. So that was a kind of a way for me to express my love of dance because even though it was a music group, I was the principal dancer and I got to research and perform dance from cultures around the world, which was a thrill. And also, if you're in a dance company, which was like a teen dream of mine, I, I I quickly got out of that when I got into dance movement therapy because I found that more meaningful. But if I were to be in a dance group, I would be anonymous. But being in a music group and then stepping forward to dance, the audience is wild about that. And I got such
Why is that, Linda? What makes it?
because it's unusual. It's a way of standing out. Like if you're just one in a dance company, you're just like one of many bodies. Usually people don't know your names unless they're devotees of the group and they know. Like I grew up in New York. My mom used to take me to, let's say, Alvin Ailey. We'd see their whole repertoire. Bolshoi Ballet came in from Soviet Union. We'd go in every night to see their whole repertoire. My mother knew the principal dancers, so I knew them by name. But most dance companies you go to, unless you know them personally, you don't know who their names are. But in this music group, we were small, first of all, 6 people. So someone steps out and they dance, it's like, oh, you're the dancer. It's a way to stand out is by
Yeah.
doing something that's different than everybody else. And now I did have a couple of people join me on occasion, but I was clearly the dancer. So it was something that brought people to me all the time, giving me all these accolades, which was really lovely. Have that space.
Yeah, you stepped into the spotlight, you
Mhm.
welcomed visibility,
Yep.
because one of the benefits of being in a dance group is that part of the group, and you don't have to stand out. You can be adding to the whole wonderful vibe. I mean, we see Beyonce up there. We know she's got her troupe behind her, right? Doing all the things, but they're just bodies moving.
Right, right, right.
And sometimes that anonymity can be helpful, but I love that you stepped out and you were comfortable being the dominant dancer there.
Yes, yes, and that was by virtue of the dance therapy work that I had done, where I learned to accept and allow being seen. And I got comfortable with being seen. So I could be like sometimes when we traveled far into foreign lands, it was like this big hoopla, and we'd have like Moroccan national TV on us, and there'd be like 6 cameras on me as I'm dancing with my eyes closed doing a trance dance from Egypt. And it didn't matter to me if it was just 25 people in the audience, 500 people, the cameras, that was fine while I was moving. And one of the things I loved about moving is that I didn't have to speak. Now, I didn't realize until years later, decades later, that I was afraid of speaking in public. I kind of knew it, but I didn't have a reason to do it except to introduce a song from stage, which I hated to do. But it
Right.
was one of those things that we used to joke, oh, some of the people love the gift of gab. They loved introducing songs. We'd have to take the hook and say, come on, let's get off, get on with the song. And then there were a few of us that disliked it. We didn't
Yeah.
feel comfortable. This is my belief. Some people were natural at it and some of us weren't.
Well,
And it just felt like a given.
yeah, and I can't wait to learn more about that, but please explain what dance movement therapy is.
It's multidimensional, but the
Mhm.
way I use it is using dance and movement to know oneself better and to understand, let's say in this one modality, authentic movement, where I mentioned getting comfortable being seen, you're moving with your eyes closed, no music, just listening to your body. How does my body want to move? Oh, here's my arm rising up in the air. Oh, the fist. Oh, I want to pound. And it's like you're not directing it with your mind, but you're allowing it to reveal itself or to unfold. And your mind is simply an observer, like watching a movie. And at the same time, since you know there's witnesses or a witness who is holding non-judgment space, you get to explore what it feels like to be seen. Like, I remember there being blankets, and sometimes I cover myself with a blanket because I didn't feel comfortable being seen in that moment. I wanted to hide. I wanted to explore how I wanted to hide. So I'd get underneath that blanket and I'd do things with my fingers or make faces that nobody could see. And then I'd get hot and I'd throw it off and I go, here I am, not verbally, but and so it was a way of exploring that relationship between the audience and you. And it was very, very transformative for me. It allowed me to go from, "Oh, am I doing this good? Am I moving well? Do people like what they see?" to, "This is what I feel. I am following my inner experience, and I allow others to witness me. I allow others to be with me as I go deep into myself." So that was a total shifter for me as a performer. So in terms of leaving that, I didn't know what I wanted to do after teaching. And I went to an astrologer actually. And I
Yay.
said, I have no idea where I'm going. And the astrologer said, I hate to tell you this, but you're not going to know for a long time because you have this going on in your 12th house. It was called an interception or something like that. It said you're a late bloomer. But in the meantime, what I recommend you do is simply explore whatever interests you and follow those down for as long as they keep your interest. And when it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. So I had that in mind from age 30, I don't know, in my early 30s.
Wow.
And let's see, first I had a kid, and then I was very interested in a type of homeschooling called unschooling. So we unschooled, and that I was with my child all the time and our friends, and we were going on field trips and it was an enchanted time, having so much fun, learning together with other kids, but in our own way,
Yeah.
and feeling very rebellious. I loved feeling rebellious and
And that's typical of our generation too. Always pushing the envelope, and at
Yes.
least a segment of us were.
Yes, there is a segment of us, indeed, indeed. And then I got into natural vision improvement. I trained
Wow.
in that to get rid of my glasses, which I'm still working on. And then I got into organic farming.
Wow,
And I've
Linda.
always been into growing edible landscapes, herbs and fruit and vegetables and flowers. So I got very involved with the organic farming community in Massachusetts and New England. And in fact, that served as a one of the milestones in my speaking confidence.
How's that?
Because when I was in grad school for the expressive arts therapy and movement studies, I had a terrible, terrible, mortifying speaking experience where my advisor said, "Oh, it'd be great for you to talk about this authentic movement to the school." And I figured it was going to be students. It turned out to be all the faculty heads. And as they filled up the room, I went into a full-blown panic. My mouth got so dry, not a sound came out of my mouth.
And
And
did you have that out-of-body experience, like, "Where
totally
am I?"
disembodied, like I'm rising out. I was gone. I didn't know where I was. And when I opened my mouth to speak, not a sound came out because you need saliva to make a sound. Nothing came
Gosh,
out. It
Linda.
was like bone dry, like after you're at a dentist and they vacuum your mouth
Yeah.
out. At that time, we weren't carrying water around. I didn't have water. I would have to walk to another room to get water.
Meanwhile,
But
they're all staring at you.
they're all staring at me. I feel like, can I get swallowed up now? So anyway, my advisor eventually figured out I needed water. She brought me some water. I got some. I mean, in the meantime, I was like opening and closing my mouth like a fish. So my voice did come back. I have no idea what I said. I went home thinking I will never, ever speak in public again. So that's where I was when I got in 10 years later when I was in the organic farming community. And, I somehow got really, really obsessed with the idea of drinking raw milk. And it was illegal in Massachusetts. And I reached out to the Organic Farming Association. I said, I really think that you guys should take on this issue because there are so many people, I'm sure, in the organic farming community that want raw milk and it's not legalized. And the director, Julie Rawson was her name, she said, "You are so right, Linda. This is such a great issue to bring up. And I'm going to give you a 2-minute segment before the keynote speaker at the summer conference." And I said, "Julie, I can't do that. The last time I spoke in public, no sound came out of my mouth. Can you do it for me?" She said, "Oh, no, no, no. You're the one with the expertise, the knowledge around this. You have the passion. Just write a sheet of paper, Linda, and read it. You'll be fine." So I was standing there shaking with the paper. And long story short, I did get through it. No tomatoes got thrown at me, and people signed up to get to work together on this issue. And now we've got 23 dairies licensed to sell raw milk in Massachusetts.
Oh my gosh, Linda. Bravo. And I love that, you handshaking, knees shaking, all of that, still because you were so passionate about the why, which
And
was it.
the shaking did not end after that at all. But what it did tell me is that I could survive the shaking.
Yeah.
And so that was my modus operandus moving forward is I can survive this. I just have to manage the anxiety. So then 10 years later, um, I was I started an organic farm where I was selling specialty vegetables to some local restaurants. Very kind of cool identity there.
Yeah, farm to table.
Yeah,
There we
farm to
go.
table. I felt very, very she in some way, a she farmer. And I'm listening to a podcast, this is 2014, on how to start the right business. And all of a sudden, I was jolted to standing, realizing I had always had, with the dance movement therapy stuff, I still wanted to make a big impact. But here I was, as I say, hiding behind the kale.
Hiding behind the kale. Love that. And you were being called to how to start a business because you were feeling
I
compelled
just
to
I just
launch
had this
something.
feeling that if I got to the end of my life and I didn't try to figure out what was this contribution
Right.
that I wanted to make, I would feel regret. Like, why the heck didn't I try to figure out what that was? And that's when I knew I have no idea, is this going to be around dance? Is it going to be around something else? I had no idea, but I was sure as heck going to try to figure it out. And so I took a coaching program because I figured I'm a teacher, that'll give
Doing
me
that forever.
that'll give me somewhere, a place to gravitate from. And while I was, trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I want to coach on? I figured, well, maybe some kind of stress. And I made a website called High on Life Strategies for Everyday Bliss. And which I really thought was cute. And my mom always used to say, I'm high on life. I don't drink. I'm high on life. Or I don't smoke. I'm high on life. And I was in a very substance clean time of my life too. So I thought that was applicable. And while I was trying to figure out how to get comfortable on camera, which I was not, I was taking video classes, how to do this, because I felt so performative. I just didn't know how to be myself.
Right.
My video mentor said, hey, there's this new app out called Periscope. It has a technology called live streaming.
Yeah,
And it
with
was the
Twitter.
very first one. And
Yay.
all the marketing gurus said you had to get on daily to build a following. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this. Here I am, a late bloomer. I was in my late 50s. I would think I was 59 at the time, or 60.
That
I
would,
must have been
yeah.
60. If 2015 was when I got on Periscope, so I was 60. And I was terrified. Terrified. I talk about leaving my body, hyperventilating, racing heart. And I thought, hey, I know how to manage this. Deep breathing, power poses, affirmations,
No beta blocker?
dancing.
My favorite
No,
go-to.
I'm not into medication, so that wasn't on my list. But all the other things that I could do,
Yeah.
I did, and they kind of worked. They worked for me to like get on every single day. I had to spend a half hour, 45 minutes to get to a place that was calm enough because I would do kicks and punches. Then I would, do some meditation and deep breathing, and then I do so. Yeah, and
Ayurvedic breathing. That's one of my
Ayurveda,
favorite.
I tried all kinds of things. You name it, I tried it, except for the beta blocker. And I just assumed, after a few weeks, I'll get comfortable because experience leads to confidence, right? I get to 10 weeks later. I've been doing this every single day. I'm about to press broadcast. My heart's racing. I went, hey, wait a minute.
This shouldn't be happening.
This shouldn't be happening. Exactly. And that's when I realized I was managing my fear, but I wasn't getting rid of it. And if I
Right.
wanted to get rid of it, I was going to have to somehow get to the root of it, which was kind of like a mental framework that I work with in health.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, it made sense to do that. So I made a list of all the modalities I had come across with self-help and personal development and my grad school and performing. And I was looking at this list and I'm saying, whoa, there's got to be something in here that's going to like get rid of this fear. And the first thing I noticed was this one modality called focusing, where you close your eyes, you feel into your body and you say, if this distress, in this case, if this fear could talk, what would it say? And what came back was, you're going to be attacked. I was so surprised. I thought, I feel like I'm going to be attacked. Where have I been attacked? And suddenly I had memories. My sisters attacking me. Anytime they were jealous because mom put me in the center of attention, raising me up saying, Linda's such a good girl. Why can't you girls be more like Linda?
Uh-oh.
So they would kick me in the shins. They'd hold me on the floor, torture, tickle me. They would say, shut up, call me
Oh
stupid.
my gosh. So your inner child was like, no, it's not safe to speak, and I'm going to be as loud as possible until you stop doing this. And you had to wire that out.
So I totally wired that out. I became introverted. I spent most of the time in my room. I liked being by myself. I didn't feel comfortable expressing myself. It was like, oh, duh, of course I'm not comfortable being in the center of attention and taking up space. Somehow the dance thing worked for me in the group, but speaking did not. So once I realized, oh, Linda, you've got stuff. Because it wasn't just that. It was when I was bullied in 7th grade and the kids said, nobody talked to Linda, and they didn't for 4 days. And I still have no idea what that was about or who did it, but that impacted me. Or my father saying things like, you'll never succeed in
Yeah, sure.
this stuff, or mom saying, why an A minus and not an A plus? And, all these things that we get that pressure us or ridicule us or make us feel ashamed or um, like it's just not safe to be the center of attention, not safe to be called on. We don't want to feel stupid or foolish or not have people like us, and
Yeah.
all so many avenues for us to falter from our speaking confidence.
Right.
Once I realized I had all that stuff, I looked back at my list and went, "Ooh, I've got all these modalities. I have EFT, emotional freedom technique. I've got forgiveness. I've got creative visualization. I've got dance. I have journaling." And I spent the next 5 days like in intensive retreat with myself. In 5 days, it was gone.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Bravo, Linda. And once you shine a light on the fears that are holding you back, you can dive deep into what they are, why they are,
What
and
they
s-
need, what they
and
need to heal.
yep, and what they need to heal, and also working with the brain to take that groove in your neuroplasticity that's so focused on I'm going to die if I speak, and filling that in, packing that up, and creating new grooves. Listener, we're learning the best insights and advice from Linda Ugelow. You can learn more about Linda's work in the world by visiting lindaugelow.com. That's Linda, Ugelow.com. Oh my gosh, Linda. And explains my own stuff around public speaking, because I tell everybody, no, I don't do public speaking. I'll be on a panel. Happy to do the podcast. And I do remember when I went live, did a lot of live streams, but then I did live streaming for 3 years in a row. And for the first, few weeks, twice a week, I was, but about, 20 episodes in, it was like, yeah, I can do this in my sleep. But again, that's a mic looking into a camera. No problem. But you put me in front of a room and I have the same background you do. Bullied for 3.5 years from my neighborhood girls, horrific. Plus my family, quiet, shut up, sit down. This personality, we don't want to hear from you. So all of those messages, it's true. Things become life-threatening. And it's not just also working with your mind and listening to that part of you that is so frightened and trying to protect you. It's also understanding the somatic part of the journey, which is the memories that are housed in our body, which I feel like that was a lot of what you were able to do and why dance movement was fine for you, because perhaps not all of those messages were stuck in your body. And so I just love all of these. Talk a little bit more about EFT. I know I do EFT for flying and
Mm.
other situations. I'm a huge fan, but I also like rapid eye movement, working with the brain and the neuroplasticity. Creative visualization is wonderful. The I am statements, and of course, the inner forgiveness. Talk about how these have transformed individuals that you've worked with. How have they been powerful in the context of your practice today?
Oh, it's really been incredible. Even, it depends on where someone is when they come to me, how quickly they get to the other side. If I work with podcasters, truthfully, it takes a lot less to get to the other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because,
I think because you already have all of this experience of speaking in public. Whereas if you're somebody who's kept yourself from speaking in public, that you've kept yourself back from doing any kind of presentations or getting online, you've just felt, oh, that's not for me, I'm not one of those people who can do that, then you don't have any evidence of your capabilities.
right.
And you also, when you are a podcaster, you already have a lot of speaking skills, whether you recognize it or not.
Like
But you
what? for example?
Well, being able to think on your feet, speak spontaneously, respond to in a conversation while others are listening. That you it's kind of like as I was describing that I could focus in on my dance and allow myself to be seen, podcasters are able to be in conversation and let their words be heard.
There we go. And let them stumble out
And you let
however
them
they
stumble
stumble out.
out so you're used to handling mistakes, losing your where you were, like just you did a few minutes ago. You said, "I lost my train of thought." Now that is a skill to be comfortable losing your train of thought and finding your way back in
Yeah.
or your way
250
forward.
live episodes will do that for you, listeners.
Exactly. Exactly, that's what I mean, you've built a lot of skills that way, so it's different than when somebody is petrified of making any mistakes,
Right.
is, afraid that they're gonna lose their train of thought, or they're gonna skip something that's really important, or they're gonna stumble over their words, or they're gonna say filler words, or, whatever it is that their habit is, it can be and of course, depending on the traumas or the wounds from the past, there can be someone can have many, many more
And
than
very
other people.
yeah, and
Yes.
very valid reasons for
Yes,
why you
and
don't.
very valid. I like people to recognize, well, of course you feel this way.
Yeah, see, and I've never understood this. It just felt like a weird dichotomy because seriously, listener, nothing makes me happier than walking into a room full of strangers. My batteries get juiced, but I'm curious. I love to walk in. Oh, tell me about you. Tell me about you. And then I connect people and I just, oh my gosh, look at all these people I get to talk to. But when I get in front of a room and I'm supposed to deliver a speech, I think about all the people who've done it so brilliantly and think, hashtag, why bother? I also think, "Oh my god, I'm gonna disappoint them. What could I possibly say that's gonna," or it's just not gonna come out with the level of expertise I think I'd like to see and want delivered, and maybe I'm the one in the audience being too judgy. All of these things. How do you handle that when your clients come to you and say, "I have to do this speech," because a lot of times I imagine people have to do something. How do they find you? How do you work with them? Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, how I would work with it is I would use it as a starting point to figure out what happened in the past. So why bother? Like, where in the past did you feel like you didn't measure up?
Where do I begin?
Exactly. And that's where we begin. So we go as early as we can remember.
Right.
Because
Oh,
that's where the foundational piece and everything else kinda gloms onto that as we grow up, and that's not to say that later experiences aren't needing attention. They very
right.
likely are, but the earliest ones are definitely. And so we might use EFT. You asked about EFT earlier.
Yeah.
What I love about EFT is that it's very malleable and I can incorporate creative visualization. I can incorporate
Yeah.
forgiveness. I can incorporate affirmations. So for people who don't know what it is, it's you're making statements while you're tapping on 9 different meridian points in your face and upper body. And you start from acknowledging whatever distress is there, acknowledging whatever the experience was, because it's really important to touch for that younger you or inner child, however you want to call it. I like saying the younger you, to feel seen and
Right.
understood and respected and have space held for their feelings. So I always try to get into whatever that experience
Well,
was.
and Linda, what I love about that first stage, and listener, there's like a step one to the EFT process where you're saying all the nasty, awful stuff. And to me, you got to walk with your dark side. You can't push
Yes.
it off to the right or left. You got to hold hands and just say, we got this together. And what I love about EFT in that regard is that you get out. I'm the worst speaker ever. I'm scared, and I'm all the wham that you want to get out. But then you get into, go ahead, Linda, the
Then
what ifs and
you move it into, like well, I don't usually talk about, how one feels now. I mostly will get into, like, "Okay, so what happened in the family? What happened with that bullying on the
nice.
street? And so this is what happened, this is how I felt, this is what I believed, this is what I experienced." Then we move into, "W what would you have wanted?" What did you wish happened that didn't happen? And feeling that grief of not getting the support, the mentorship, the care, the understanding. Because really, these things have stuck with us because they weren't resolved at the time.
Undigested trauma, folks. It's for
Mhm.
real.
Mhm. And then we'll move into, uh, the the strengths that you came out of it with, because they're always
Nice.
treasures to keep.
So exciting. I love this something fierce. And then everything is cushioned with forgiveness, which
And
is you
then
have to
you
have
you you
radical
for you
self-love.
forgive, you imagine different things happening, and all of a sudden, that memory that used to have a particular story arc that was always the same groove, grooved in over and over many years and decades, all of a sudden, it has a much broader canvas. And that shift is often enough to help that feel like, "Okay, I'm done with this." Triggering me, and that often happens. Occasionally, we'll have to go back, and even myself, occasionally, something will happen in my business, and I think, "You know what? I think I might visit my dad again."
Like Linda's tapping on herself
I'm
right there
tapping
for
on my face. I'm tapping on I think I
for those
might have to,
listening.
tap a little bit more with dad, because maybe there's still something there.
Sure,
That I'm holding
sure.
on to. But, that might happen, some years later after, and it's not like it's the same stuckness. It's like a new level that I've gotten to that I feel like, "Oh, I'm feeling like I'm holding myself back. What could that be?" So I love this modality. It's funny, I just wanted to circle back because you talked about saying all the negative stuff at the beginning. When I first learned this, I learned it from my friend Eliza Bergerson, who's a transformational kinesiologist. And I hate it. I was like, don't make me say these things. I don't want to say these bad things because it was like I wanted to skip right over the
Sure.
negative feelings. And the whole idea, she used to like muscle test me and she would say, I'm a whatever, I'm a good speaker or I'm a bad
Right.
speaker. And I was like, no, I don't want to say anything negative. So it really took me some adjustment to give myself over to the process.
Right.
But the process is very, very powerful. I'm thinking about one of my recent podcasters who I coached on my podcast. Sometimes when, like yourself, when someone mentions that I have an issue here, I'll invite them on my podcast and we'll do a coaching.
Mm.
And so a
Nice.
recent one I did, it was this fellow from Romania, and he said that so English is his second language, and he is comfortable using English and coaching in English, but when he's in conversation, and he's a nomad, what is it called? A digital nomad.
Yeah.
When he meets people for whom English is their native language, all of a sudden he pulls back. He feels shy. He doesn't want to open his mouth. He gets tongue-tied. So we got into what those things might have been from, and it turned out to be times that he was made to feel small, of course, and be felt on the outside, but also later when he was older and he got more I think he was into sports and he was doing really well. And suddenly his younger brother was being compared to him and unfavorably. And he felt, I've got to dim my light,
Yes. Yes.
which was one of my original issues. I have to dim my light around my sisters or they're going to hate me.
Right.
So this idea of being on the outside, I mean, it seems like, oh, who doesn't feel that way going through middle school, you know? But when you feel like you're not the center of the cool group, when you're always on the outside, even just that can make you feel like, I'm not good enough. Who am I? Those people, they know what they're talking about. They're used to being in the limelight. You choose them. I'll just sit back, let other people speak. So these two combinations. And so I got an email from him a month ago, and he said, I was back in Romania. I was at an entrepreneur conference and I had conversations with some very big people, including Stephen Bartlett, who is Diary of a CEO podcast. It's the biggest podcast one of the biggest podcasts worldwide, maybe the top 5. And he said he was totally fine.
Oh,
He had
see?
a really nice conversation. He didn't feel uptight. And, this is what's so wonderful because he would not have gotten to have that kind of conversation with a person who he looked up to.
Oh, this is so good. Listener, are you enjoying this conversation as much as I am? Join the movement to end ageism and celebrate pro-aging. For just $5, you can sponsor this podcast and help amplify inspiring voices like our guest today, Linda Ugelow. Break age-related stereotypes, reach more listeners worldwide. Just visit buymeacoffee.com, Ande Lyons, and let's make aging a journey of joy and possibility. This is what Linda's been talking about the whole time. And I love how you're helping folks be fully expressed, because at the end of life, that is where the biggest regret has been, is that the fears kept them from pursuing who they were here to be, fully expressed, whatever that looks like. And being able to walk people through this really big fear, it's, I think, one of the biggest fears, right up there with dying, right, Linda?
It's one of the biggies, yes.
Yeah, so it's part of the human journey. And so if you can lighten up with yourself, I'm talking to myself right now, and lighten up and explore ways that you can communicate that feels more of grace and ease versus, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I think working with someone like Linda would be transformational for you listeners. So keep that in mind. Linda, as someone who began overcoming her fear of being seen at the age of 60, and you've realized so many wonderful things, what advice do you have to others who may feel it's too late to pursue passions or step into the spotlight? And listener, I'm always saying, don't shrink with age, take center stage.
Oh, I love that, Ande. I love that. And I say, yes, it's never too late. I got over this. I've worked with people who are older than myself. It's if you feel like there's something that you have to contribute, whether it's speaking up at your town meeting or it's enjoying the parties that you go to, dinner dates with people, and you want to be able to take the mic when it's handed to you rather than like if someone says, "Oh, tell everyone the story when you jumped off the cliff," and you go, "Oh, that was nothing." I want you to like say, "Yeah, that was an amazing thing." And the way you really do take up space and you enjoy the telling, you enjoy using your voice. And I just want to remind you all that speaking is our human design. It is our human design.
Why
We were
is that?
not meant to shy away. We were conditioned to shy away in order to make children who are compliant and easily manageable in school, at home.
I'm writing that down, listener. Speaking is part of our human design. Holy mackerel. I never thought about that. And what I love about your work in the world, Linda, is that you have walked this. I mean, there's some wonderful speaking coaches out there, but they were on the stage early and they had this nailed. You saw them in high school and you knew they were going to go off to do this, but you crawled through
I crawl
the
through.
dark days of no, I can't speak. And you did the hard work. You did your 5-day retreat so that you could really hone in on what's really going on here. And then because you are a fierce problem solver, you found the modalities that worked for you. And you actually, I don't even want to say conquered. You quieted those voices. You settled them down so that your presence could take the spotlight with confidence. And I just love how you do that for folks. Share with listeners how they can work with you, follow you, connect with you, and continue to get this great, not only pro-aging advice, of course, but how they can continue to pursue their dreams. 70s, 80s, 90s, folks, the world needs you. How can they follow you and work with you, Linda?
Well, I recommend if you are doing any kind of speaking to download my speaker preparation checklist. It's 7 rituals and practices that's not about practicing or rehearsing over and over, but other ways that you can get yourself more grounded, focused, and energized before you speak. And this is kind of like I think, the secret sauce of performing. That before you step out on a podcast or before you step out on stage, that you get all of you, all parts of you, emotionally, physically, vocally, cognitively, all together so that you can be the best that you can be. So the speaker preparation checklist is at lindaugelow.com/rituals.
Great.
And otherwise, come and just reach out to me at linda@lindaugelow.com and say, hey, want to talk to you. So I do work privately. I do right now run an accelerator called the Delight in the Limelight Accelerator, where in 10 weeks, people get comfy on camera. They reveal and heal the root causes of their fear. They learn to love their voice. They learn to think on their feet. And it's, I'm not sure when I'm going to actually run this particular program again, but I always have some programs running. So reach out to me, find out what's current.
And those who are watching the video, you can see we both have a copy of Linda's phenomenal book.
Oh, of course.
Talk a
I
little
get
bit
my
about
book.
that.
That's probably the most cost-effective way of learning my entire method from start to finish. Get delight in the limelight. Thank you, Ande. Get delight in the limelight. It's I'm so proud. I have 111, almost all 5-star reviews.
Oh, congratulations. Oh, that feels so good as an author. And what the beauty of what you're doing too is it's so holistic, it's so organic. And I do have one little question that popped up in my mind while you were talking about preparation. I think one of the other things that holds me back, and definitely as I age, is that memory piece. Because, our brains, sometimes we have that thought, but then it gets lost in the millions of files of other data that we've consumed and logged in to our brains over the decades. And I always think, how could I possibly, quote, memorize all that? Versus I just admire people so much who know how to speak what I call extemporaneously, right? How do you help people with that part of a presentation? And
Well,
and can I just say to everybody, I am totally okay with reading a script. Totally okay. Go ahead, Linda.
Yep. So if you're doing a virtual presentation, you can actually read the script. You would practice so it sounds less like you're reading a script. You would practice so it feels really engaging, dynamic in spite of reading a script. And if you are speaking on a stage, I think there are different ways to go about it. I have totally memorized a script. The way you do it is you have to make it fun. I actually have a blog about how to make memorizing fun. I think I also have a podcast on it over at Delight in the Limelight podcast, how to make memorizing fun. And that way you don't get, it's not as tedious to memorize.
Right.
And it becomes more of a game. You also don't have to memorize a talk, but you do have to practice the sections extemporaneously. You need to practice them in a way that you know that you're not going to go over time, because when you do speak on stage, you have a time limit. And it is the hallmark of a professional speaker that you stay within that time, because if you go over, that means the whole event goes over.
Oh, yeah. You have to honor the
You
stage.
have
It's
to
a
honor the
sacred
stage.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? As I said, you practice with a timer, the different sections, but practice speaking extemporaneously. But the other piece is that a lot of people say, I don't want to memorize because I'm afraid of sounding scripted. That is not an issue of memorization. That is an issue of how you are memorizing and how you go about speaking.
Right.
To me, every time I tell the same Periscope story, I tell it in a different way. And I always feel for what wants to be emphasized or elevated in a sentence. So every time you open your mouth to say a sentence, you feel like you are bringing it to life as you speak it.
Right.
And when you have that attitude, and this is why I love focusing or exploring dynamics of speaking and what I call delicious diction, is that when you focus on the actual formation of of the words, the actual production of the sound, the tone of your voice, the way you use melody, it becomes so vastly interesting. And you become almost like a tour guide for your audience. I saw your response to
Yeah, I
that word, the
love that
tour guide.
image.
Yes.
And when you said things being fun, listeners, I am a 4 times founder. I had to pitch my business to raise millions in VC money, thousands in angel funds. So I always had fun and won many a pitch event as a result
And
because
what was fun for you?
well, going through, of course, I was just so excited about the business. So I took myself out of the equation and made it about the business,
What does
right?
that mean?
So that meant I felt like the spotlight was off me, even though I'm the founder. It meant that, let me tell you about this great business idea. And so it wasn't me getting judged by what am I, Ande, delivering. It's let me tell you about this third party entity, which is I love to enhance other people. Same thing. I could get up and introduce you just fine. I've introduced people in front of thousands. Very comfortable with that because I like going, and today we have Linda Ugelow. But so that's how I felt about my business. And that's why I always feel, I could be an MC, no problem. But being responsible in front of the room.
Give me another insight of and how I can help people actually. Because what I got from you is that you haven't had any wounds about having ideas.
Right.
Whereas some people might have a wound, and in fact I do too, of, sharing an idea and getting it crushed. That's not a good idea. My husband said that to me one day.
Oh my gosh.
That's not an interesting
Who's going
idea.
to care about that?
And because I already was wounded, it stuck. If I hadn't been wounded before, I'd say, what do you know?
It's possible.
Of course it's possible.
I
Yeah.
love that. Oh,
Yeah.
Linda, thank you so much. It's just great that you joined me and shared your brilliance and how you're helping people. Your work is so transformative, uplifting, and the ripple effect, I am sure, is profound because when people can get over and really embrace this other side of themselves that they've been terrified of doing for so long, it opens up the doors. They touch others' lives. So what you've done is given them permission to touch other lives. I've got to tell you, you must every day be going, thank you.
I do. I feel so blessed to have had this problem.
Yes.
Because without the problem, I wouldn't have come up with my solution.
Mm.
And without that, I wouldn't have had this fulfillment in my life and be able to help other people open up their lives too and realize their dreams. And that is the tagline of my book, Overcome Your Fear of Being Seen and Realize Your Dreams.
Oh, I love that, something fierce. Okay, listener, now it's your turn. What did you learn from today's episode? Are you going to start stepping up to the spotlight? Are you going to contact Linda? What questions do you have? I'd love to hear from you. Come share your thoughts with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Just search for Don't Be Caged by Your Age. And you can also leave me a voice message on the website. How cool is that? So thank you for tuning in. And remember, don't be caged by your age. Keep pursuing those dreams and opportunities and always age out loud and proud. I'm 69 and feeling mighty fine. Linda, you're 70. And what's a good rhyme for 70?
Well, I like saying sexy at 70.
Sexy at 70. I love that. Hooray. Thank you again, Linda, for joining me. It was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Ande. It was so great to be here.
Everyone, wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Cheers from Boston. Listeners, I'm so grateful you carved out time to tune in and grab the gems from this delicious conversation. Be sure to hop on over to Don't Be Caged by Your Age on LinkedIn or Instagram to share your thoughts about ageism and unretirement. Because in this space, your age doesn't define you, it refines you. If you are inspired by a story you hear, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, share, rate and review the podcast. To receive an alert whenever a new show is posted, please join the Don't Be Caged by Your Age newsletter. Every month, you'll receive links to the podcast and helpful resources for creating possibilities for your unretirement days. Thank you for tuning in. I am so excited to hear how you found ways to thrive after 65. Waving from Boston, cheers.